Today is January 23rd.
Okay, in today's Desert Pencil webinar, I introduced the Basic Money course, which is great. So I talked a little bit about how the course was designed, how it was developed, how the groups helped me do that. Then we watched a couple of the modules. We watched the module on compounding and inflation, and we watched the module on how to take information from a credit card statement, use AI, and convert it to a Schedule C tax form. Pretty amazing. What you're going to see in this rebroadcast of the webinar is the module on compounding inflation. If you want to see the other one and the rest of the course, check it out at desertpencil.com. Again, it came out really well. I'm super proud of it. We finished up today with me talking a little bit about another thing I learned, which is how you can scrape your Amazon account information, merge out the credit card statement, and use AI to further delineate all that for tax return preparation. It is one of the most amazing things that I've ever seen. So that was the basic nucleus of today's Desert Pencil webinar. We do the webinar every Friday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific. You can get the link at desertpencil.com. Enjoy.
I can't believe my wife wanted to go up there and she's cold in the house when it's 70 degrees. And it's like, honey, it's going to be really cold up there. She goes, yeah, but I want to see him. It's like, okay, let's do it. So off we go.
You're staying in an igloo, huh?
It's this thing called Base Camp Borealis. It's an igloo, but it's an igloo shape. We were looking at it. It's not like it's made out of ice.
So it's really like a Holiday Inn, right? They just cover up the sign.
Yeah, sort of. But it does have a it must be a plexiglass rounded top, so you can basically lay in bed and look up at the stars.
Glamping meets igloo.
You know, when you're from Bellevue, you just have certain expectations in life.
Right. It's like, okay, this is better. When she said igloo, I was thinking, well, how do they do this? It's gonna be cold in there. It's ice, but nope,
Like,
not that bad. So
what am I doing here? Oh no.
yeah.
Funny. Okay.
Mini fridge.
Good news. Mercedes, how is the Yakima Valley this morning?
Well, Joe, there's a lot of chores on the farm here.
Yes.
I've done like 10 already.
Yes. Yes. This is the woman from Thurston County speaking, by the way. So, okay, cool. Jacques, how you doing up there in the great state of Coeur d'Alene area, Post Falls?
Doing fine, Joe.
Awesome.
Heavy overcast, no snow on the ground.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is.
Okay, and that's a perfect segue into our reason that we're here today. Karma, the Desert Pencil Basic Money course. I really hope this thing goes well. I'm pretty damn excited about it. And a couple of you were gracious enough to take a look at bits and pieces and help me out. And we're going to take a look at that later. So the course now is complete. And it's complete subject to minor revisions that people might suggest today. Or I have a group of people who I call my test pilots who now have it, and they're going to be a little more detailed in their review and get back to me next couple of days. But notwithstanding that, it's done.
Isn't that like a week or 2 weeks total from the inception of it to completion?
It took about a week.
That's crazy. Jeez.
Well, I didn't work on it all day.
Well done.
I mean,
No, I mean, that's wicked fast.
oh, okay.
Wicked fast.
That is
Yeah.
pretty fast. Well, it's like anything else, you know, if you do IRR 10,000 times, you can do it pretty fast.
Wow.
Got it.
But, you know, let me just say something about that. Okay. That's actually, it's a very pertinent comment. One of the things that I talk about in the course at the beginning is just clarity. Okay. And what I mean by that is knowing who you are, knowing where you are. And the course, that's in the context of money. But in the context of my career, and I appreciate your compliment, Kelly. Thank you. I take it with all humility. But that said, you know, I've been doing this for 35 years. I should know how to do this. And I've carried the torch of video. I've taught some of you how to do video. So it's just a melding of those two skills, you know. The trick the hard part for me is figuring out the curriculum.
Yes.
And what I talked about in the video, and I still believe this is, and a lot of it came from you guys, by the way, so thank you so much. You guys are a lot of the inspiration for doing this. I haven't said that, but you have taught me what is the disparity between what people don't know and what they should know. Okay, and so I've tried to pick 6 of those topics and squeeze them into a 1-hour box. And this is a basic course. It's not designed to go in depth. That'll come later in the new Does It Pencil. But thank you, Kelly. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the course has 7 modules. We looked at 3 of them last week. Okay, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to present 3 more of 4, and then we'll see how we are on time. But I really want to get through these today. So the ones that I want to talk about, what we're going to watch first is module 4, which is compounding and inflation. And then we're going to watch module 6, which is my presentation of using AI for your basic business bookkeeping and the enormous time savings that helps you with. And then the last thing I'm going to show you is a special treat that will wait until the end. So let's cue up video number 4. Get that ready. We'll watch that next.
What I want to talk to you about next is slanted more toward the investing side of money, okay? I want to talk to you a minute about 2 phenomenon in the world of finance, compounding and inflation. So let's talk about inflation first. What is inflation? Now, just that question alone opens the door to a whole bunch of politics, which we're not going to do today. I will tell you about the cause of inflation, but I don't want to make it a political football. Inflation is quite simply this: dollars in the future are worth less than dollars today. Now, that's kind of a weird definition that some economists made up, okay? So let me show you a simple example just to illustrate. So let's say that I give you $100 today, and you say, awesome, thanks for the $100. And you take that money, you go out, let's say you buy a pair of shoes for $100. You're like, great, got $100, bought a pair of shoes, everybody's happy, okay? But let's say that instead of spending that $100 on a pair of shoes, you just put the $100 in your pocket, okay? And let's say that you live in a world, just use a simple example, where inflation is reported at 5%. So what that would mean is that $100 in 1 year, if inflation was 5%, would be worth not $100, it'd be worth $95. Now, you'd still look at the $100 bill and go, but wait a minute, I have $100, and that's true, but now that pair of shoes, instead of be $100, would be $105 just to keep pace with inflation. So you lost 5% of your purchasing power, and that's what inflation does. Okay, dollars are worth less in the future because of the loss of purchasing power. Now let's say that instead of buying a pair of shoes, and instead of putting it in your pocket, you took that money and you put it into an account that paid you, let's say, 5%. So that $100, after 1 year, if it went up 5%, you would have $105. And you think to yourself, awesome, I have $105. It's true. But if you're also in an inflationary environment, it's still only worth what $100 was a year ago. So one of the ways to combat inflation is by investing your money so that it compounds at least at the rate of inflation. I'll talk about that in just a minute, okay? But let me just finish up this section by giving you a non-political, very honest definition of how inflation really works. Inflation happens when there's more money in the system than there is goods and services, more money in the system than there is available goods and services. So the most recent phenomenon we have of inflation was post-COVID, right after COVID. Now let's just think for a minute what happened during COVID, right? The whole world went into lockdown for like a year and a half, depending on where you were. And at least in America, during that same period of time, the government put $7 trillion into the economy, but we didn't make anything. We didn't do anything. We just sat home and we said, thanks for the money. I mean, I'm kind of exaggerating here, but you get the point. So as we started coming out of lockdown, people had all this money. We didn't have any stuff. And that's why we got inflation. So inflation is when there's an excess supply of money in the money supply as compared to available goods and services. All right, one last thing about inflation. There's this thing in American economics called the Fed, which is an abbreviation for the Federal Reserve Bank. And the Fed controls two things. They control interest rates and the money supply. And the Fed's stated goal is 2% inflation every year. They want to keep it at 2%. I don't know why they think that's healthy, but that's what they say, and that's what it is. So what you should plan on in an optimum inflationary environment is that your money is losing at least 2% per year. We'll talk about how to fix that next. All right, so we live in this world, we live in this economy where we have an organization, an entity called the Fed, and they're trying to regulate something called inflation, and their target goal is to keep it around 2%. Okay, so that's fairly common knowledge in financial circles. That's the world we live in. The question is, what can you do to help yourself? All right, so there's a couple things that you can do. So one thing you can do is try to invest your money at least at the rate of inflation, at least to keep up with inflation. Okay, now to do this, you have some options. Okay, I am not here to advocate any certain institution, but for the most part, there are 4 types of institutions available in America for you to invest your money. Okay, whether you have a little bit or a lot. So one is you have regular banks, you have credit unions, you have brokerage houses, and a relatively new phenomenon is these online banks. All right, so those are basically the 4 choices that you have. Now you have to be somewhat intentional about this and a little bit informed. One of the things you want to do is to understand what's the current rate of inflation, and that's pretty easy to ascertain. When I was an undergraduate, I took economics and we studied all the different kinds of CPIs and things there were. I'm not going to get all that here. But if you just, go to Google, go to AI, whatever your thing is, and just ask it, what is the current rate of inflation? It's pretty easy to figure out. Then you take that information and you get a hold of your bank, your credit union, your brokerage firm, your online bank, whatever you choose to use, and ask them what kind of instruments, kind of investments do they have that will at least keep pace with the current rate of inflation. And most of them will have shorter term, mostly liquid investments that will at least do that. And they might be a 3-month CD, they might be a sweep money market fund. They're out there, but you want to put your money in those to park your money because you want to at least keep up with the rate of inflation as far as your cash is concerned. Now, once you've taken care of that and you're looking in the longer horizon for investing and actually growing your wealth, which is something we talk about quite a bit in Does It Pencil, there's another skill set that we teach in Does It Pencil. And this skill set is called time value of money, or TVM. And I teach this on a financial calculator. So we have a whole module on this, and actually time value of money really kind of weaves its way through all the conversations in Does It Pencil that have to do with investing. So if you choose to take Does It Pencil, and you should, You will learn a ton about time value of money, how to use a financial calculator, how to make the best decisions about your future when you're investing your money. Okay. But that's Does It Pencil. Check it out at doesitpencil.com. But for this course, what I want to do is to take you to a hidden page at doesitpencil.com. And I'm going to give you something as a part of this course. I'm going to give you a spreadsheet that I've built, which is actually a retirement planning worksheet. And you can use it for retirement or anything else. But this will show you the effect of compounding, which is the antidote to inflation. So I'm going to go to that webpage next, show you what it looks like. And because I like you, I'm going to give you a free downloadable copy of this worksheet. I read an article this week that now you're supposed to have $1,500,000 to retire. And so I thought I'd put together just a very simple spreadsheet, easy to use, so people can just see where they're at, where they want to be, but most importantly, the drastic effect of compound interest. So here's how this works. Let me show you first what the whole thing looks like. It all fits on one sheet, okay? Very simple. And it's locked, so if you try to go in here and change any of the cells, you can't do it. It's all locked, okay? Which means it all just set it and forget it. The only two things that you need to change are the two red cells here, which are monthly payment and annual rate, okay? So let me show you how this works, then we'll fiddle with it a little bit, and then you can download it and try it yourself. All right, so this is the monthly payment you would make, and this is the annual return that you expect. And the reason I put 12.4% in here is because I went back and looked up what has been the annualized return of the S&P 500 index since 2008. That seems like a pretty decent recent benchmark. It's 12.39%, so I just made it 12.4. I'm going to change this 500 to 100, and then we'll come back. Let me just did $100 a month. So this is the ages, 25, 35, 45, 55. So for example, if you start at age 25 and you put in $100 a month for 40 years down to age 65, that's where this ends, you'll have paid in a total of $48,000. And the future value at the end will be $1,335,584. If you start when you're 35, making the same monthly payment, you'll only have $382,105 when you're 65. Let's just stop there for a second. That is drastic. If you just started 10 years sooner, making the same payment, you'll have $1 million more almost. I mean, that's just crazy. All right. Then we got 45 and 55. So the way the chart works is the blue is the 25, the red is the 35, the green is the 45, and the purple is the 55, okay? So you don't have to mess with these. I'll just show you what they mean. So this is age 25, and start years is age 26 is year one. Now I know it seems weird, and that's because Excel, the way it works, is it by default, since it sets an end of period calculation. It has to do when you make the payments at the beginning of a period. So basically, if you start when you're 25, by the time you get to the end of the first year at 26, you'll have 1,271. So this is why I lock this, so you don't have to worry about it and fiddle with it. But these are all correct values down here at age 65, okay? So for example, for age 55, that's what this one is right here, okay? So if you start here, you're actually going to get your first return at age 56, which is the end of the 12th month of the first year at age 55, and it bleeds all the way down here, okay? So let's just fiddle with this a little bit. You can see the difference. So what happens if instead of $100 a month, I put in $200? I'll hit return. I'll hit return. Watch what happens to these bars here in 3, 2, 1. See that? So it changes the values at the bottom. If you make a $200 a month payment, you'll have 2.67 million at the end of the 40th year when you're 65. If you start when you're 25, if you put in, I think it was $113 a month, that gets you almost to the $1.5 million number. So if you can, a couple less cups of Starbucks a month, one less pair of shoes, whatever. This is not that much, but the magic is starting early. And that's really the point here. The later you wait to start, the worse this is. Okay. So if you're 55, you are where you are, just start. It's better than starting at 65.
Mercedes, what did you think?
liked it. I really did. I liked the little freebie you threw in there. I thought that was kind of cool. And I mean, I've heard you talk about this before. It just makes too much sense and it's very useful.
Well, that spreadsheet was born of a conversation that I had with you, Kelly, and one other person one day. And I immediately realized that while all three of us are more or less in the same, well, we are in the same age group, but the conversation morphed to your 20-something children and grandchildren in Kelly's case. And I thought, God, I've got to have just a simple tool to show you guys what this is, because they didn't have it at the time. So I
Yeah.
built it.
Yeah.
And it is a part of the class. I want to spread the word. I want people to know.
Yeah.
I'm a teacher. It's what we do, teach.
Yeah.
So Farzine, what did you think of all that? Still there? There you are. Unmute and give us your humble wisdom, my friend.
You know, it is perfect because it's so simple and it
Mhm.
gets right to the point. That's the
Yeah.
beauty of it. And it's just like, if I can get it, anybody can get it.
Mhm.
That was very good.
Okay. Jeanne, what did you think of that?
I think it was good too.
Perfect.
I like the comparison for the ages, although I don't like my age, so I'd rather be 25.
Honey, none of us like our age, but it just is what it is. It's what we're at.
Yes, I gotta put mine way up to catch up.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm probably going to do a therapy follow-up.
I'd appreciate that.
I'm not there yet. Okay. All right. Dee, do you have anything to share with us? And then Jeff?
Well, I just thought that I was a little confused at the beginning about the 12.79 percentage that you threw in there, because none of my money is getting that in interest rate.
Okay. Let me get to Jeff and then I'll come back to that. Go ahead,
Okay.
Jeff.
I thought it would be helpful, Joe, if you had a field in that spreadsheet for a lump sum starting point for those that may be behind the curve and wish to, or maybe if you had, say, grandparents that wanted to get off their grandchild off with a lump sum and then contribute monthly to that.
That's
That would be,
cool. That's a cool
that'd be
idea.
useful.
Okay. That would probably be spreadsheet 2. Yeah, fit all on that one, but that's a good idea.
Mhm.
Because, you know, in this place called the real world where we all live, we are just entering the next phase of wealth transference, which will be the largest wealth transference ever in human history. We've been in it for a while with the WW2s to the boomers, and now it's the boomers to whatever. I never get this right. Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, I never know. But those people, I'm not one of them.
The kids.
The kids, yeah. So a generation is technically 20 years, and every 20 years we have this transference. So that's a good point. Thank you. Okay, so D, in that example, I used 12.4%. And I went to the internet and I just asked it, what has been the average rate of return of the Standard & Poor's 500 index annually since 2008? So the Standard & Poor's index it's a collection of stocks of 500 American companies, and it rotates every, I don't know, every day, every month, year, I don't know, something like that. But they don't always stay the same. I do know that. So it's designed as a gauge, as a reflection of the American economy as whole. And I used 2008 to 2025 because that captures and includes the Great Recession or Depression, or whatever they call it, recession, up until now. Okay. Last year, the S&P 500 returned, I think, about 23%. Okay. So if you are not currently making those kinds of returns, I'm going to recommend that you look up a stock with the following 3 symbols: SPY. That's all you have to look up. And just Google around that. And that's what's called an ETF, which is an exchange traded fund. And it doesn't, you're going to pay a little bit to get into it, a little bit for maintenance, but not much, very low fees. And that is what I always recommend for new investors in equities getting into, And if you go somewhere in the archives of the internet, there was this one guy, what's his name? Oh yeah, Warren Buffett. And he said one time, if you just take your money and put it into a no-load S&P index fund, you can beat all the hedge funds. And they proved it, and he was right. Now, there's another thing, and this is, I want to say this because this is a basic course, but I did figure out how you can go to Amazon. There's two ways you can do it, and they will scrape your entire history transaction by transaction. You take that, put that into a spreadsheet with your credit card statement, and you could write a prompt that says, go into all my Amazon purchases and do that separating that I was telling you guys about. And it'll do that. But that was just like a little bit too much for a basic course. But if you ever want to do that, there's two ways you can do it. One is there's a thing where you can just send Amazon an email. It's not part of your profile anymore. You have to specifically request it. And I did. And it took like 18 hours to get mine back. And I say that because it said we'll have it back to you in like 3 to 5 days. I'm like, come on, this is Amazon. You can deliver hot dog faster than that. But it took 18 hours. And the other thing that you can do is there is a Google Chrome extension that will do the same thing. Okay, if that's of interest to you to further delineate your Amazon purchases. All right.
They're already doing it for data brokers. So, you're just another data broker to them, Joe.
Well, but it's my data, damn it.